What is up? Welcome into the double FU, the FU times 2. I am Jeremy Schulman at hashtag Michael Lynn Evans III. And this is Jesse Muller, hashtag Tank-a-Lank, baby. We are here on Thanksgiving Eve. I'm not sure if that's when you're going to be watching it, but that's when we're talking about the wide receiver rankings for week 13, getting them in and out to you ahead of time before Turkey Day. Can't wait to dive into these wide receivers, especially a couple of these guys that we're talking about right here. But let's talk to this guy right here real first. Jesse, how's it going, man?
As you so eloquently put it yesterday, gobble gobble, motherfucker. So we're rolling along. We're getting ready for Turkey Day. I got a lot of stuff to prepare for after these fun shows we're gonna do. So just getting ready, get it set up, go visit the family tomorrow. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun day. Get to watch football, hang out with family. Can't do it any better than that.
That's it. This is what Thanksgiving dreams are made of. My Thanksgiving dreams are Thanksgiving Eve nightmares because my wife is cooking some delicious smelling food in the other room, and we had to order some crap takeout because she's like, I ain't cooking dinner. I'm like, I know, but like, can I get some of that preview? No, it's not allowed. Not allowed. No turkey for you.
Put off the side
anyway. Yeah. We sneak a bit. But we're going to move on to the wide receiver rankings. We're going to go in order 6 at a pop. We'll talk about these guys and what we think about their prospects in week 13. So let us begin with the top 6 in tier 1. If I can find the button, look at me on the ball today. Wide receiver number 1, A.J. Brown at Baltimore. Nico Collins, number 2. He should be number 1 at Jacksonville. Jamar Chase, 3rd. Justin Jefferson, 4th. Puka Nacua, 5th. And Amon-Ra St. Brown coming in at 6th. These are our high-end wide receiver ones by consensus. That's myself, Jesse, and SC. Jesse, who do you want to talk about?
We can talk about top 2 guys just because they're most fun guys. They're, if not the best wide receivers in football, the top 2, number 2 and number 3 right now behind Jamar Chase, who's doing unicorn stuff out in just magical land, living on the just dreams and hopes for anybody who has them. The thing with that I really like about Nico and that we both like about Nico is I played Jacksonville Jaguars this week, right?
Yeah.
My issue is the Stroud and the offense, and that's the one thing I worry about with him in this game is they need to keep him upright. The Jaguars can pressure on quarterbacks, so that's why I'm a little bit lower on him. But like we saw last week, Nico basically had a 100 yards touchdown. He's just done that every game basically this year, except the game on early. And then you talk about another guy like A.J. Brown, one of the best physical freaks in the NFL. He's doing it. Their team is projected for a boatload of points this week. They're right into the league leaders. It's just you kind of want to fire all these guys up. But yeah, with A.J. Brown and Hurts and even DeVonta Smith, we'll talk about a little bit. I love all of those guys. They're both going to do really well. And you look at the matchups, why would you guys not start the guys? Both these teams have given up over 2,000 yards receiving to the wide receivers, 13 touchdowns. The only team worse, we got Baltimore. It's Jacksonville, it's Minnesota, Baltimore. Those are the 3 you actively want to target. So anybody going up against those guys, I'm happily firing them up. And that's why A.J. Brown's number 1.
I love it. In the late window this Sunday, we have the Rams against New Orleans, Tampa against Carolina. Looks like potentially a couple of blowouts, maybe some fun, but Philly at Baltimore, and that's it. So can't wait to really focus on that game. It should be one of the more fun games this season that we're able to watch. Another fun wide receiver is Amon-Ra St. Brown at 6. I can't wait to see him go against this Chicago secondary. I don't know what Chicago was able to do, but they absolutely neutralized Justin Jefferson last week. That was some impressive work, whether that was Sam Darnold's fault or, the fault of the defensive coordinator over in Chicago. I'm not sure, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, we'll see if he can get loose in that secondary this week.
Yeah, it's the slot bonus, right? He gets a little bit easier life. So, sometimes it's like that. Just get a little bit easier bonus.
Very true. Let's move on to our tier 2 wide receivers, 7 through 12. We got Cooper Kupp at 7. We had Puka at 5, Kupp at 7. These guys are monsters. They did it last week. They're going to do it again. Mike Evans at 8 at Carolina. Michael Lynn Evans III set to ball out yet again. Terry McLaurin at 9. JSN all the way up at 10. Holy crap. Here we are. Well ahead of DK Metcalf. I don't even see DK Metcalf. Good Lord. Amazing. JSN at 10, Malik Neighbors 11, and Drake London at 12. Let's talk about someone here, Justin.
Yeah, Mike Evans gets Carolina, and Carolina over the years has played a ton of man coverage. And this is where Mike Evans specializes. He's much more of a man beater than his own beater. So if you're going to continue to play these man coverage against Mike Evans, what's going to happen? You're going to get torched deep. You remember a couple of years ago, he went absolutely bonkers in the fantasy football championship against the Carolina Panthers. If you had him rostered on your team, you remember because it was basically a 50 burger. Yeah, this is why he's up there. I am surprised we have JSN this high, to tell you the truth. But I do with the Jets defense, ever since Robert Saleh has left, the defense is nowhere near the same. And he doesn't get, I know like Sauce Gardner is struggling. He is worse this year than he has previously. Like it's still a matchup that really DK Metcalf is a little bit tougher. Like JSN works in the slot and they've switched the offense completely a little bit since like the bye week. I've seen they've changed his routes a little bit and what they're doing, and it's working a lot more for him. He's actually out targeting him, and he's the number one wide receiver the last 5 of the last 6 games as far as targets go. So, you know what? You fire JSN up and you get that slot bonus where he's our discounted Amon-Ra St. Brown in Seattle, and I'm not complaining with that at all.
Damn right. I know he's had this breakout the last 3 games. However, if you had to guess, if you haven't looked this up previously, how many games did JSN have this entire season fewer than 6 targets?
Ooh, that is a good question. I would say maybe like 2.
2. 2. So the targets are usually there for JSN. 1 with 6, 3 with 7. Otherwise, 9, 12, 11, 12, 13, 16 targets, 5 games with 9+ targets on the season for JSN. And 2 of those games were in weeks 2 and 4. So he's been seeing the volume. What we see now, like you mentioned, is more consistency with that volume, a change up in how he's running routes. And Geno is looking to him more often because he's open. DK on the field, DK not on the field. It doesn't seem to matter lately. And like you said, they play the Jets. Oh, and they play Arizona the following week, where JSN just went 6 for 77 and a touchdown. So you fire him up each and every week for the time being.
I love it.
Noted Seahawks fan Jesse is ecstatic about this development. I am sure. Let's move on to our tier 3. We got CD Lamb at 13. Really hard to fade this man. I get it if you do, but it's still CD Lamb. You know, he's putting up Wan'Dale Robinson numbers these days. Number 14, we got Cortland Sutton. 15, George Pickens. 16, Tyreek Hill, somehow still mid-range wide receiver 2. Yikes. Lad McConkey at 17 and Calvin Ridley at 18, rounding it out with a nice game against Washington, potentially. Who do you like here?
Yeah, the CD ranking, like we're pretty far apart on this. I bumped him down to like wide receiver 24. Because the news is coming out that it might be Trey Lance this week. And if it's Trey Lance at quarterback, I do not want him playing. So that's why he's lower. If it's Cooper Rush and Cooper Rush is starting quarterback, I'll push CD Lamb up in rankings. But that was the red flag when I was like, oh God, if Trey Lance is the quarterback, it's going to be a lot of running and it's going to be difficult. You've seen he's just struggled. So that's that. And he's basically like your point, Wan'Dale Robinson in that offense. It's a high floor, but the ceiling's not there. And then you take Trey Lance and that takes the ceiling even less. So it's just kind of just like no things. I'm interested in Cortland Sutton. He's been a monster, like you've been hyping him up the past month, and he's been balling out. Like he's been a top 5 wide receiver this past month, and he's continuing to do that. So even against Cleveland and not the best match in the world, I don't care. You fire him up. And yeah, to your point on Tyreek Hill, it's a 19% target share from 31 the year before. So I know we have these basically preconceived notions with Tyreek being that truly elite wide receiver. He has not been that this year. So I think people are starting to come around like, it could be a Waddle week where we saw that last week, right? Where Waddle got off. It could see that more often because Tyreek's just not being the same guy. And I don't know if it's injury or whatever it is, but it's not working for him this year. So yeah, seeing him in this range might be a little bit too high, actually.
Yeah, it's Jonnu Smith is what it is. The last 2 weeks, 6 for 101 and 2, 9 for 87 and 1. Those are Tyreek Hill type numbers, and they're not going to Tyreek Hill with those goddamn numbers. Jonnu Smith, a plug and must play weekly. Holy crap, 2024 is ridiculous. To your point on Cortland Sutton, monster. Fire him up every single week. He doesn't need a touchdown to get there, but if he gets 1 or 2, like you did last week, he absolutely crushes. You can get over this Cleveland secondary. They are good talent-wise. They just don't always put it together. Coverage, I don't know if it's scheme, if it's coverage, if you can just get over the top on these guys. But Sutton and Vele are both balling out in that offense. Bo Nix can get over on this Cleveland defense. So we will have to see how that fares. But yeah, Cortland Sutton, super high.
He's been dope. Like to your point, since week 7, he's got 17 PPR points, 23, 19, 14, and 29. Like that's a hot month for you. So yeah, we love Cortland Sutton right now.
Yeah. Let's put him over CD. Let's put him over CD Lamb.
Yes. I'm with
I think we should. Let's move on to the next tier. This is tier 4, 19 to 24. We got T. Higgins at 19 against Pittsburgh. The matchup is tough. The wide receiver is tougher. We love T. Zay Flowers at 20. Garrett Wilson, 21. Devontae Adams, his teammate, 22. They've been down bad, but the Seattle Seahawks defense should be a get-right game, but maybe not after last week. Maybe they figured it out. We'll have to see. But in that same game, DK Metcalf coming in at 23 against the Jets. Surprising rankings from us. Have him down a bit lower. And then DJ Moore rounding it out at 24.
Yeah, like DJ Moore is the one that stands out because Detroit gives up a ton of yards. Now, it's not the best EPA situation as far as like statistical backing, but like they're going to be behind in this game. The Lions offense is basically the best in the NFL. They have a really strong defense. What that means is you're going to see Caleb Williams throwing it a ton. This is kind of the Jameis Winston scenario where it's like there's going to be so many pass attempts. The guys can still get theirs in this game. So I think DJ Moore is just a much safer play in this range, and I'm fine firing him up, which is probably the first time I've said that in about a month because I have not trusted that offense. But since they've turned the corner, the new offense coordinator, all that stuff, it looks a lot better. So I don't mind firing him up. Yeah, to your point on Adams and like Garrett Wilson, like I'm not confident about both of those guys. You kind of put them there by default just because the wide receivers in this range are just not the best, right? Because once you get past Ladd and like Calvin Ridley, you get to like Zay Flowers and potentially good matchup. But yeah, I'm not super confident about Devontae and Garrett Wilson. Devontae worries me a little bit more because he's going to line up in the slot a little bit more, and that means he gets Devin Witherspoon, and Devin Witherspoon's one of the best corners in the NFL. So yeah, I'm probably going to knock Devontae Adams down a little bit more as we're talking about this because the guys below him, like DeVonta Smith, who we'll talk about in a second, like I don't know why he's outside our top 24 wide receivers. He needs to be significantly higher because I have him at wide receiver 11. I am firing up the Philadelphia Eagles wide receivers. So we'll talk about that in a second.
All of your points make a ton of sense. I think with T and Zay, you just ride those guys no matter the matchup they play, they can ball out. With DK Metcalf, he's had a couple of down weeks here, but we know what DK can do. Coming off of the injury and then the bye, week 11 against San Francisco, 10.5 half PPR points. Week 12 against Arizona, 7.9. If there is a game where he can go off, it's against the ghost of Sauce Gardner, who apparently doesn't give a shit right now. I mean, it's quite clear in locker room interviews anyway. This team is down bad. They're out of the playoff hunt. Even if it's not statistical, they're done. I really expect DK and JSN both to have nice days, but JSN has just been going off. So you got to ride the hot hand in that one. Let's move on to tier 5 of our wide receivers. We start with wide receiver 25. It is Khalil Shakir of the Buffalo Bills. Let's go. Damn. Over DeVonta Smith at wide receiver 26, Jameson Williams at wide receiver 27. One of these things is not like the other Khalil Shakir. Jaden Reed at wide receiver 28, Brian Thomas at wide receiver 28, 29, who might get Trevor Lawrence back. We'll see. Probably not, but maybe. And Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver 30. Who do you like here?
I like a lot of these guys, actually. Marvin Harrison Jr., we need to see it from you, dude. Like, we've been putting you up in rankings. You got drafted basically turn pick for round 1, round 2. You just have not lived up there, and you have not gotten the targets. It's clearly the Trey McBride offense. So, I get it. The Vikings defense, we talked about them being kind of like a pass-full situation because teams struggle against them. What's weird about the Vikings, if you dig into them, when they're trailing, they have a much better EPA, pass defensive EPA, than when they're leading, which is super weird. You'd expect them to get more pressure when they're leading, but it's kind of flipped. So I'm maybe expecting that to correct itself. But yeah, with Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm not a big fan of him this week. I do want to see it because they're probably gonna have to pass a lot in this game. They'll be behind Minnesota really good. With Brian Thomas Jr., we're waiting to hear about if Trevor Lawrence plays. Trevor Lawrence plays, I will boost him up rankings. Jaden Reed, Jaden Reed, like he's just not earning enough targets to be that guy we want him to be. And yeah, like DeVonta Smith. I mean, come on, he has a matchup against the Baltimore Ravens defense. They cannot stop anybody in the passing game. DeVonta Smith's a really good wide receiver. Sometimes it's just that simple. You got to fire DeVonta Smith up. So I think DeVonta Smith is the must start in this range of top players.
Yep. If he plays and he's fully healthy, we'll have to wait and see another practice report, but things are trending that way early on this week. If that's the case, then we love it. Baltimore, of course, giving up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. You know who's giving up the second most? It's the opponent of Marvin Harrison Jr., those Minnesota Vikings. So it's interesting for a lot of guys in this range. I also like Brian Thomas Jr. against Houston. We'll see if he gets his quarterback back. But love this range of guys. Let's keep going. Wide receiver 31 to 36. We have Jalen Waddle at 31 with a big game last week. Darnell Mooney at 32 if he plays. Juwan Jennings at 33, coming off a down game, but at Buffalo could be a big one for him. Jacoby Myers and no one else at 34 against the Chiefs with who knows throwing him the football. 35 is DeAndre Hopkins, and then 36 Tank Dell against Jacksonville.
Yeah, Tank Dell stands out just because of the matchup against Jacksonville. I have him at like wide receiver 26, I think. I'm confidently firing him up. The other guys in this range are pretty interesting to me. Jacoby Myers just has a terrible matchup against Kansas City, so you kind of have to knock him. But it's similar to CeeDee Lamb. It's a super high floor weekly with him. It's just Kansas City, like, can he get home? Can he get into the end zone? I don't know if it's possible. Juwan Jennings, I was super hyped about, but then it's not Brock Purdy. So theoretically, I need to push Jacoby Myers above Juwan Jennings because if Juwan Jennings does not have Brock Purdy as starting quarterback, like, it just brings the floor down. And then Mooney, another bad matchup. So you know what you're getting with the Chargers. That defense is really good. And the last guy, Jalen Waddle, like, we saw it. Maybe we can see it for a second week in a row, and we can get back on the Jalen Waddle train. Let's hope so, because, man, like, it's fun seeing Jalen Waddle do good things in the NFL. So come on, Mike McDaniel. Let it happen again for a second week in a row.
Yeah, I hear all of that. Also, the one guy you didn't mention there, DeAndre Hopkins, has become the most touchdown-dependent wide receiver in the league. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 35 yards, but did score a touchdown. Ended up the half PPR wide receiver 16 last week. That's always possible, especially against a bad team like Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to happen? Probably not. If Pacheco comes back, we could have 5 touchdowns from running backs this game. You just never know. Oh, and by the way, Travis Kelce should get in the end zone one of these times, unless they keep throwing it. Unless Noah Gray is the new Jonnu Smith. Who knows? I guess we'll find out here in week 13. Good Lord, he's heating up. Tier 7 of wide receivers. This is 37 to 42. So we have 2 more tiers here to go through, and then the best of the rest. We got Jordan Addison at 37, Keenan Allen 38, Pittman at 39, Jerry Jeudy at 40. Been great, but faces the Denver D. Rome Odunze at 41 against those Detroit Lions we talked about, and Deebo Samuel down bad at 42 at Buffalo.
The Deebo one hurts my heart, man. Like, Deebo's one of my favorite players in the NFL, and it's like this far down, it's like, sheesh. Crazy. We have lost the plot with Deebo Samuel. I need to get healthy and get back to it. With Keenan Allen, I will say 15 targets last week, and as much as I think that's a bad idea, if they're going to hyper target him against this game, especially in PPR options against the Lions, and they give so many passing yards, he could have a really, really good game in this game because he's going to get a lot of the easy routes, do a lot of the fun stuff. And you could see another double-digit target game where he has 15, gets in the touchdown, maybe gets 20 points for you. So I like Keenan Allen. I like Rome Odunze. He was more efficient, which is Rome Odunze has been the entire season. He just isn't on the targets at the same rate. So until that switches, I will put Rome Odunze above him. But for the meantime, we're just going to roll with Keenan Allen. Trust the old man. Get those targets and, be PPR scheme. I like it.
How are we feeling about Deebo in terms of this question? The last 2 weeks, week 11 and week 12, I'll even tell you he played your Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. How many total yards in those 2 weeks did Deebo accumulate?
Dude, it's brutal. He did basically nothing last week. The Seahawks, I know he saw some targets. I don't think he did much with them, though. So I'd say, I don't know, like 60 yards total, maybe the last 2 weeks.
42 total yards. He had 43 receiving yards in the 2 games and -1 rushing yards in the 2 games. 11 targets, 5 receptions. Deebo down bad. One of those games with Brock Purdy. So, yeah.
I mean, you would think he'd be the default guy, right, with the backup, but that's not even happening. Still Juwan Jennings. So until that changes, man, just sucks for Deebo. Just sucks.
Ridiculous. This is 43 to 48, but we're going to go all the way to 50 here and give you our top 50 guys. At 43, we got Amari Cooper. I expect a bounce back game, although I did not rank him as such. We'll have to see. San Francisco could do it. QJ at 44 somehow. How do we not bump his ass out of the top 50? I don't know, but QJ is here. Quentin Johnston at Atlanta. Great matchup. We'll see if he can catch a football this week. Wan'Dale Robinson at 45 will catch a bunch of footballs, but do nothing with it. Cedric Tillman at 46 at Denver. Demario Douglas, 47. Xavier Legette, 48. Teammate Adam Thielen at 49. And Nick Westbrook-Ikine, touchdown monster at 50.
Hey, those are some juicy matchups at the bottom of the 3. Like the Carolina matchup against Tampa Bay is a really good matchup for wide receivers. If you want to go Leggett or Thielen, pick your poison. You go with that. I would probably go Thielen. He's earning more targets. You could do that. It's more of a lower floor play. Yeah, Stonehands, Quentin Johnston. It's a juicy matchup, but like you're telling me you're going to start that guy after what we just saw.
You can't.
You got to have some stones down low. You know what I'm saying? To do that. The thing with Amari Cooper is just he's not healthy. So that's what worries me about Cooper. I actually wanted to rank Keon Coleman above him, but he's also not healthy. So that's why by default it's Khalil Shakir and like not much else there in Buffalo until we see these guys get healthy. It's really just gonna be a Josh Allen game. That's what it always is for those guys. So I like a few of those guys, and yeah, it's Cedric Tillman's dealing with an injury, and in Denver that just sounds like not a fun matchup. But you could do Pop Douglas against the Colts, getting those slot targets if you wanted to do that. Solid 4 play as well this week.
Yeah, totally agree. Amari Cooper, I want to see it after the bye. I want to see him come back and be more integrated into this offense. He had that sick one-handed grab down the sideline 2 weeks ago. Amari, come on. You're back from the wrist injury, healthy. You had some time off. Let's go. Get it together. Would I bet on it? No. But I think he's a nice buy low here, depending on how low you can go. Late second, early third for the aged Amari Cooper. Maybe.
Probably, yeah.
QJ for Amari Cooper at this.
Yeah, take my QJ. Take him immediately.
How down bad is Amari? Let's move on to the best of the rest. A couple of names in this area here. We got Josh Downs at 52, MVS at 53. We got Noah Brown, who went off at 55, Devon Bailey, who we mentioned at 56. Let's see, Kayshon Boutte, the 6-target machine at 62. Demarcus Robinson at 66 fell into the end zone last week. Again, anyone you like out of these names or anyone else down here?
Well, I think MVS is always interesting in this range if you want the boom bust wide receiver. The Rams are bottom 10 in EPA per pass attempts. They're also bottom tier in like yak per opportunity. So if you hit a deep shot to MVS, you could hit an 80-yard bomb in this game. That's kind of what you're going for. I think the Rams provide that opportunity. It's just if they continually pressure the quarterback like they have been, it might not happen. Worthy's really interesting against Vegas. He had a good game last week. If this continues with Worthy, we're probably going to push him up in rankings where we become more confident in him. So him at 54 feels like a good buy. And then, I know Josh Downs is injured, but if he's playing, I don't mind going the Josh Downs experience because he's going to live in that slice and get those easy targets. And he's not really going to see Christian Gonzalez, so you don't have to worry as much as you would if he's on the outside. So, yeah, I think you could do a few of these guys in this range. And like we talked about with Keon Coleman, like it's tempting. Like I kind of want to see him this week. I'm not going to play him, but I'm intrigued by him.
Yeah. On Downs, Shane Steichen said that he's not ruling him out yet, but it's going to be very difficult for him to play. I believe that's a quote from the coach. We probably won't see Josh Downs this week, which sucks because he's playing New England, right? Like he should dominate. I hope he plays for my fantasy teams, but we just wish him health. To your point on Xavier Worthy, 5 and 6 targets over the last 2 games, converted them into season high. No, second and third most yards on the season, but also scored a touchdown in one of those games as well. If they keep going back to him and not to Travis Kelce for some reason, it's a great matchup for him. I agree. Another interesting one to me is Rashad Bateman with the way that Philly has been playing. If Philly decides to cover these 2 tight ends, or at least Mark Andrews, they decide to cover Zay Flowers, it's possible Bateman could, find his way open. Is it likely? Probably not. But, Lamar and company are going to have to move the ball somehow. Bateman had a really good game last week. And I also wonder Christian Watson, if he can get loose. It's a different guy every week here. We mentioned Jaden Reed is our highest ranked by far. But, who's going to get the targets? Is it Dobbs? Is it Watson? Is it Reed? I don't know. Yeah,
it's weird about like Miami's defense, like from a statistical like pass attempts and all that stuff is not really that good, but fantasy wise, they shut down wide receivers. And I think this is a lot of the backing early in the season where these stats are misleading because they've only given up 1,300 yards to wide receivers on the season, which is basically like 1,000 yards less than Baltimore. Yeah. So I think the stats don't tell you the whole story with them, and their defense is not that good. So yeah, you could talk yourself into it. It's just, that one you kind of have to pay attention a little bit.
Also, if Josh Downs misses, are you firing up Alec Pierce?
I mean, I'll take a shot with AR, baby. Like let's ride. The one guy I do want to play is Pittman, like because Pittman can live in that intermediate, right? Like I think it really works out for Pittman where he just garners a ton of targets in this game. But yeah, if you want the MVS of the Colts, like Alec Pierce is your guy, baby. Like let it ride.
Jonathan Taylor, JT should be able to run all over these guys. AR as well. But will they? We have no idea. We'll talk about JT on another show, but that's it for this show. I am this guy. This guy is that guy. We are going to be here, every single day. Like and subscribe if you like this content, especially on YouTube. We're over on TikTok and X primarily as well. A bunch of other spots where you can find us. But I'm going to hit a button now if I can ever find the damn button. It's in the same place every time, I swear to God. But for Jesse, I am Jeremy. For Essie and Aaron, we are the Fantasy Football Universe. We'll see you next time.
Listen up, closely let the games begin. Top pick sleepers every